Here is Imoson community. We are trying to pursue all these Fulanis with their cows out of our town. Kí Ọlọ́run kó là wá nílẹ̀ Yorùbá yìí ni o. Ìjẹ̀bú Imoson la wà yìí láti lé àwọn Fúlàní tí wọ́n da màálù wọ inú ìlú wa kúrò níbẹ̀. Kí Ọlọ́run kó gbà fún wa báyìí o.
Fẹ́ wọn ọjọ́ kan lọ, à ń lé wọn lọ. We don't want them. We don't want Fulani herdsmen in our town.
Fẹ́ wọn.
Imoson is a peaceful town. We don't want trouble. We don't want anything wahala.
Thousands of màálù náà dà wọ ìlú yìí. Gbogbo àwọn youth Imoson pátápátá. À lé wọn báyìí o. Asùn ni mí. Here is live and direct from Ijebu Imoson. All Imoson peoples are pursuing them. They don't want them. We don't want them. Bá wọn jà o. Kò sẹ́ni bọ̀ tó bá wọn jà o. Wọn ò bá wọn jà o. Kọ́kọ́ gbé màálù wọn kúrò nínú ìlú wa ni o. Wọn ò bá wọn jà. Wọn ò bá wọn jà o. Kọ́ da màálù kúrò nínú ìlú wa. This is what we are facing now. We don't want them. Imoson jẹ́ ìlú tó wà peaceful. So, a fẹ́ ogun, a fẹ́ ìjà o. We don't want them in this our community. Òru náà dá màálù yìí wọ inú ìlú yìí. Thousands of màálù òru náà dá wọ ìlú yìí. So we are pursuing them now. Live and direct ní èní ọjọ́ Sunday. Tẹ́ bá rí wọn, àwọn Fúlàní náà ló ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn wọn yìí sìn. So we don't want them. Wọ́n bá wọn jà o, wọ́n bá wọn jà, wọ́n ṣàní kó màálù wọn kúrò nínú ìlú wa ni o. You can see them now. Lára wọn ló ń fònù yìí. These are the Fulanis. Gbogbo ọ̀dọ́ ìlú Imoson àtàgbàlagbà àtọkùnrin àtobìnrin kò sẹ́ni tó bá wọn jà o. Wọ́n ní kó màálù wọn kó máa lọ. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni bí a fẹ́ wàhálà Fúlàní nílùú wa o. We don't want them. We make a peace with them now. We make a peace with them láti fi agbègbè yìí sílẹ̀.
Yàwó bàbá Ijebu gbó.
As you can see where we are now is Ifesuwako Comprehensive High School, Ijebu Imoson. Just to ensure and see it clearly. Also we have in our midst our leaders, our fathers. Also we have Taskforce in our midst here, just to make a peace. Just to make a peace, please. Lively and direct in Ijebu Imoson. May Almighty Allah be with every one of us. Ìṣọ̀kan là ń fẹ́ o, but kò ń ṣe ìṣọ̀kan kó máa pààyàn báyìí o. Kó máa gbẹ̀mí àwọn èèyàn.
And in Nigeria, one other story that have come by. Please dismisses jihadist ultimatum to Okuwa. And what the jihad is saying is an open grazing ban. So are the Fulani jihadists? You know, people have been saying that. I mean, we've been saying that. No, that's not. They are just our headsmen. But if they say that they are threatening authorities, then it is already okay. Some other stories making the rounds this morning on the Ghanaian continent. Did I say Ghanaian continent? In the country Ghana on the African continent. Let me see whether I can bring you that before we have Mr. Live Mikoike coming on. Okay. I'll bring you more on the issues. But Saturday Jimba Highway with officers told who to police service. There's been an issue where there is armed attacks or armed robbery that is taking place on the Gimba Highway, and that is causing the lives of people. But the police have got water. They are various posts at one end and the other end, but in the middle there isn't anything there, and people have been complaining that they've been facing lots of attacks. And that is why we are so alive and we are so here this morning to bring you nothing but the best in everything. Okay, enjoying the hot weather there. But let me say, yummy, good morning to you.
Well, a very good morning to you back in the studio, and welcome to Monday the 14th of June 2021, reporting here from London. My name is Olayomi Koike, and it's good to be back with you again on the Star Morning Show right from our base here in London, where we are reporting from this morning after a very 6-month trip back to Nigeria, but quite a lot to be discussed. But again, I say welcome back. I always look at the view of the window that we've left for a very long time. I can tell you, the weather is quite very sunny out there. You know, the leaves are becoming more greener. And I'm sure, like you were reporting the weather, quite a lot of people who still want to go out there and enjoy the weather. But let us remember that we are still in the state of COVID from the experience of coming back into the UK. I'm going to be telling you a little bit more on that. Some of those hard restrictions before you get into the border of the United Kingdom. Once again, it is Star Radio UK Morning Show, and I'll come back slightly back again to you in the studio.
Yes, how are you and how is the family?
Well, I got back on Friday, which was, almost the last, the last day of the week. And, as you can think of it, the children were actually out, in school when I returned back. And I was kind of, isolating myself in my own little, room. until they got back. And you know, I think the little one, the bigger ones knew I was returning back, but the little ones were kind of, you know, whether it was myself or whether it was not me. But I'm sure, you know, the excitement you could see, you know, in the little boy as well, you know, when he eventually realized that, wow, it seems this is not his uncle that normally would have visited them, that this is the real dad that is back. But it's good to be back with the family, and it's good again to be back with the family on Star Radio UK. And I'll stay again. We'll be back in the southwest of Nigeria very soon, because the mission on the other side has not yet been completed.
Yes. Thank God you are well and doing good, and the family as well. Okay, now let's talk about first of all the trip to the UK. How did it go? What were the restricted protocols, the COVID protocols and everything? How was it like?
Well, for the benefit of our listeners that will be traveling in and out of the United Kingdom, UK still have, you know, this restriction that is quite, you know, very heavy. That means, you know, before you can fly out from any part of where you're traveling from, there is a new form that you need to fill. It is called the PLF, which is the passenger. Just 1 minute. It's called the passenger locator form. You must have to fill that form before you arrive into the country. If you don't do so, you might end up paying a heavy fine. What does that mean? Because, you know, as a radio station, you know, and we give a lot of information to our listeners that are traveling in and out of the country, and those that are coming in from outside the country as well. So you will have to go to the UK government website, you know, www.gov.uk/provider-journey-contact-details, or you could just Google that and put in PLF. You fill in your passenger locator form. This, you must complete a passenger locator form online before you arrive into United Kingdom. You must complete the form even if you are only transiting through the UK. It is free to submit the form, and you can't submit the form anytime until 48 hours before you arrive in UK. What happened in that form is you would have to then buy what we call, the COVID pack. It's called the day 2 and the day 8. The day 2 is what the government expect you to do when you arrive into the country. So that means you must do a COVID test, you know, as soon as you arrive into the country. So you will be paying for that day 2 and day 8. I paid somewhere around about £102. That's what I paid. And those were from the filter from the UK government. Even before you fly out of the country you're flying out from, you would also have to take a COVID test to make sure that you are negative before you fly out as well. When I arrived into the border, you know, I was able to do mine, but there was a lady that maybe the country she was traveling from, I'm not sure. Maybe she couldn't do it, or for whatever reason she was picked up from that country, but she was told that she will not be allowed to get in. She needs to fill that form, and if she's not ready to do so, £1,000 fine is what is expected from her. And I can also say, since I've arrived back, I have also received a call from the, from the test and trace. That means this is what we expect a country to do, and this is what we expect most African countries to do, because if you have the database of your citizen, or the database like you have already filled before you arrive by putting in your contact number, and I put about 2 different numbers. I saw the number ringing from the other phone. I was able to pick it up. I wanted to pick it up, but before I was going to pick it up, the line went off. In less than 30 seconds, the number ring on my other line. That means those working behind the scene are doing the job to make sure that UK is still safe when it comes to the COVID. Let me come back again to you now in the studio.
Well, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki for you, bringing you updates from Nigeria, but telling you a bit of his trip, how he got in, the challenges and everything, so that if you have to travel, you know what to expect. So thank you very much for that. But let me say good morning to Abiodun Ayobami. I say Yoruba Nation now. Thank you very much. Continue to share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones. Now let's come back to the various rallies or protests that took place over the weekend. How was it? What were numbers? Was attendance very good across the globe? Yeah, over to you.
Democracy Day is June 12th. It's also a national public bank holiday in Nigeria, and there's still a bank holiday as I speak to you right now. These were done to commemorate the democratic election of the late Chief M.K. Abiola that was killed and after the June 12, 1993 election. A lot of Nigerians will always remember that election for so many reasons, regardless of your tribe, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of wherever you are across the country. June 12, 1993, people went out in their masses and voted in, a man from the Yoruba side, from the Southwest, but was loved by those other, tribe as well. But someone, somewhere, decided that maybe it's not the time for us to have that, democracy that we should have had in 1993, even though we started it in 1999. There was so much atrocity that have been happening after 1993 till late, the late MK Abiola died. The question you asked was, how did it go over the weekend? We saw the usual of the Nigerian army that you will expect to be in the Sambisa forest, to be expecting to be conquering all the, the atrocity and the mayhem in terms of the insecurity that have taken place. But yet they were deployed, most especially, to the southwest of the country, and also the southeast of the country as well. And a lot of people were wondering. I mean, I was reading a Twitter that says, he never knew that Nigeria has so much sophisticated, logistics that could have been used. But those logistics were used heavily on most Nigerians on that Saturday, whether you were in Abuja protesting, whether you were in Southeast protesting, or whether you were in somewhere in Lagos or Ibadan. So much tear gas was used. Heavy handling of those protesters was used as well. But the turnout was quite great. It was a mixed match. We had those that were supporting the Yoruba Nation cause that took off the rally in Abeokuta. Remember, the late Chief MK Abiola is from Abeokuta, and and a lot of people that was also protesting. But we also had those Yoruba agitators that went out in their masses. But like I said, it was a mixed match. But the history we continue to remember late Chief MK Abiola. Likewise, the history will remember those that never allowed that 1993 election to have been a successful one. And now we are facing the burden that so many Nigerians are living with as of today.
Wow. Now, for the sake of our listeners who at the time didn't know exactly what had happened, or the first time they knowing anything of the sort pertaining to this Democracy Day and what happened on that particular day, can you just give them a breather? What happened, the Chief MK Abiola's the election, and what happened? What happened for him to the election to be annulled and his arrest and then his untimely death? Can you give them just a bit of a rundown on that, please?
In 1993, I mean, the hope, because it was called Hope 93. It was a hope that, Nigeria was going back into a democracy. So that means a lot of Nigerians and people around the world, was watching what was happening on the ground in Nigeria. An election took place. A lot of people, expectation was, Abiola, would have been, pronounced as the winner of that 1993 June 12 election. But it was quite, surprising that the former dictator, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, is still alive, even though he's sitting down in his wheelchair somewhere in Minna. I'm sure so many questions has been, why did he have to annul that peaceful, fearless election? But his concern was, as at the information that was getting to him, he had no other option than to cancel and annul that election. Years and decades after those elections, so many stories, so many information have come out, and now we realize that it could have been some selfish interest of some individuals that we don't call cabal that have held on the jugular of Nigeria for a very long time and never wanted late Chief MK Abiola to become the president, even though so many people voted for him. So history will remember some of those individuals that play different roles, whether they're from the southeast, the southwest, or the north of the north part of the country. But what I can tell a lot of people that are listening to us is June 12 should have been the first democracy after the dictatorship. How was the dictatorship coming up? Babangida was being there from 1984, prior to the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, that was overthrown. Nigeria experienced so many coups. As at the time we got back to 1960, independent, the first coup of 1966, and since then, Nigeria was encountering so many coups. Babangida took over in 1984 until 1993. You will have expected that he has spent so much time there, but like I said, they were never satisfied, and that election was annulled and that end up to become so many people then say, maybe it's time now, as far back as 1993, that the country should have been divided. And now, some years back, you can see that the agitation has literally now become more popular. 1993, communication was not as what we were using now. I mean, I was in GSS, I think I should have been GSS 3, somewhere around there. So that means the communication in 1993 to where I can tell you that people are listening to us as far back as, the southeast of the country or the South Asia or wherever they are because of the technology. That means we can communicate more, we can pass information, and that is what the government does not want. And that is part of the reason why Twitter was banned as well in Nigeria. But a lot of people will say, who are those behind the annulment of the fairest, peaceful election in 1993 that then become the Democracy Day that took away over the weekend, Saturday? Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I come back again to you now in the studio back in Croydon.
Yes, listeners, Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. So live, we're going to keep bringing us updates from Nigeria. Now, let's now go to some of the news making the rounds. But I can tell you this morning that Twitter boss has posted a Nigerian flag on Twitter, and it seems that is ruffling feathers. I mean, what is all that about? What has been the reaction on that front?
Well, the situation between Twitter and Nigeria is not going to go anytime soon. And I'm sure, just like you will understand, Jack Ma, he paid a visit to Nigeria, if I can remember, even though a lot of people were expecting their headquarters to be in Nigeria. It never happened. Maybe for so many reasons, the government believed that Twitter was used, people like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, was using Twitter, in a way that the government believed that Twitter should have, maybe dealt with it. But since, Twitter, doesn't believe that whatever Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and those other, individuals like, Chief Sunday Igboho and the rest of those, and some of the NGOs and different people. But this morning, Twitter boss Jack Ma has tweeted the Nigerian flag, as well. Once again, bear with me if you could just take me off the screen so that I can get the other machine on, because we're also relaying the broadcast from this end, and it seems I haven't put the power on and it has actually turned off the laptop. So just for a few seconds and I'll be back on again.
Yes, listeners, Mr. Olaimiko, I keep bringing you updates from Nigeria. But let me acknowledge a couple of people who have joined us. Ayomami says that we need freedom because we are suffering in Nigeria, Yoruba nation. Now, I like that statement, but I can then come to the question that Frank has been asking all the time. What is the blueprint? We had the former president, Obasanjo, saying that, well...
Yeah, I'm ready when you're back. I'm ready, yeah.
We've seen other countries, smaller, other countries that have gone on to, split up, put it that way, split up. And yet, what has happened is that they've not seen any development or they achieving whatever their aims are. But, well, we see what is going to happen. People learn from other mistakes. You don't try to invent the wheel because it's already been invented. People learn from that. So we hope the leadership are learning from that so that when they promise taking you to the promised land, they will get to the promised land and people can enjoy the meal on the hand.
So what people are believing is, the reason why Twitter boss Jack Dorsey has tweeted the Nigerian flag in what local media have interpreted to be support for Saturday protest against poor governances and the suspension of the microblogging platform. Mr. Dorsey tweeted attract comment from Nigerians who are using virtual private network to access the app.
Well, he's doing his best, so he bad them, yet they are still operating, so we'll see what happens. But has anyone in Nigeria been arrested or prosecuted for being on Twitter at the moment? Has there been anything of the sort?
I'm not sure how the government is going to be able to, to track that. I mean, this is a government that doesn't have any track record of any Nigerians, even those of us outside. I mean, yes, they might tell us that they have database, but yet, influx of, terrorists have been able to get into the country, but they rather want to spend money, to count how many cows are moving around the country and creating mayhem. How are they going to be able to manage people and track them down? I'm not sure that will be able to be possible, but the only thing they can do is what they've done. Block the the transmission of Twitter through the Nigerian airspace from not allowing that to work properly. But I'm sure Nigerians have been able to use, the VPN for those that understand that, properly, and then they've been able to continue to work and use Twitter as what they wanted to use it for.
Listeners, it is Star Radio, okay? 11:21 the time. I have with me Mr. Fulani. At this juncture, I'm going to allow him to bring you all the other story that's making the rounds. When he's done, we'll have a look at this story that's making the rounds. I don't know whether he's captured in the police dismissing jihadists ultimatum to Okowa. We'll be looking into that story. Are the Fulanis jihadists or what? We'll be looking at that. But at this time, let me cross over straight to Mr. Fulani for him to bring you the rest of the updates. Over to you, sir.
Yes, let's look at some of those headlines that we've already posted. For those of you on our comment section, remember to follow us on Star Radio UK on Twitter. Remember to follow us on YouTube, and likewise, like the page on Facebook, and sending money home. You can use SendWave to your loved ones as well. Ijebu, federal government must prioritize restructuring for Nigerian survivor. According to the former national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Chief John Odige Ijebu, has stated that the federal government must restructure the country in the interest and the survivor of the nation. I'm sure a lot of people that are monitoring what is happening in Nigeria currently would ask, what and how the country will survive, especially with the situation, that is happening in the country. I mean, let's look now from also what I was able to pick up from the governor, the current governor of Oyo State. He was interviewed, and I picked up that in one of the dailies. And the question that was put to him is, why is Oyo State not participating in the ongoing constitutional review exercise? This is what he has to say. What is constitutional review? It is just a complete waste of time. Really, in 2014, they took people to Abuja, they stayed there, and they produced a document. Yes, the president then, Jonathan, did not sign it. He did not sign it because he thought he was going to be re-elected and wanted to sign it after coming back. That document has been on their table since 2015. What have you done with it? Question mark. Yes, during the lifetime of each National Assembly section, they voted money for review of the Constitution, and it is the job of the National Assembly has to spend the money. That is the exercise going on. So that means whoever is going through that constitutional review, they're probably spending the money that have just been allocated for that purpose as well. Also, the headline also says, Nigerian army urge Boko Haram terrorists to surrender. I'm not sure whether those Boko Haram or the ISWAP would like to surrender, but this is what is coming up over the weekend as well. Also, hoodlums return to Lagos Ibadan Long Bridge resident raise alarm. Buhari's cow route gazette doesn't exist. Grazing ban stays safe according to the state. Remember, some few weeks back before we left, Nigeria, a lot of the governors, decided that they will continue, with the route of the, not allowing the cattle herders to continue to move around with their cow in 21st century. According to the story here, Ondo State, Delta State, Cross River State, Enugu State, Benue, and Akwa Ibom State government on Sunday have faulted the president, Muhammadu Buhari, over the existence of the gazette, which marked grazing route for the cattle across the country. Officials of the state government who stated this in a separate interview, also insisted on the ban on open grazing. I saw a video this morning, somewhere in Ogun State, precisely around Ijebu, and you could see thousands of cows being chased away by the residents of those particular area as well. Let's go back and look at some of the other headlines as well. This is still Star Radio UK. The time from this side is 11:24 a.m. And remember, it is Monday to Friday on the Star Morning Show at exactly 11 o'clock when we continue to tell you what is happening back in Nigeria as well. Again, we've looked at the situation when it comes to how Nigeria has wasted so much money when it comes to money that should have been spent, properly, for the development of the country. And part of those kind of money is what takes me to the next, headline here. And that headline, which is just says that the natural gas that should have been used, in terms of development, for the masses, 15 billion investment lost annually to the non-passage of the PIB. What is PIB? It is called the Petroleum Industry Bill. According to this report that we have here, it says a new report by the Financial Directives Company Limited, FDC, has indicated that Nigerian oil and gas industry losses as much as 15 billion US dollars in investment annually due to the delayed passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill currently before the National Assembly. The bill, which seeks to overhaul the oil and gas industry, offer new fiscal incentive to investors, according to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timper Sylvia, and the Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, is set to pass this month. So we will monitor that and be able to report that back as well. I'm going to take one more and then maybe come back again to you in the studio. This is still Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Once again, very quite sunny outside there, and like we always say, it seems I'll still enjoy that, which is almost the same thing while we were down during our stay on the southwest of the country as well. But once again, quite a lot of story going on, and the situation over the weekend, we will continue to talk about that. Let me take you to Zamfara. Again, killings took place. Bandit kidnapped family of 8, 4 others in Zaria. That is also coming up as well in the headline. According to this other headline, before I come back, to you in the studio, the Minister for Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, a one-time governor, a former governor as well, is now putting also, the blame of poverty, inequality for Nigerians' underdevelopment. Amechi blames poverty, inequality for Nigerians' underdevelopment. I watched a video yesterday. I'll send that video to you. Maybe we can be able to use that tomorrow. And that video shows people in Makoko area where food distribution was going on, and you could see them right inside the water, and you wonder why those that were trying to give food to those individuals allow them to put themselves in that kind of danger. According to the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi has blamed inequality and the extreme poverty for Nigerians' underdevelopment. Amechi explained that for Nigeria to attain any meaningful progress, inequality and the extreme poverty must be sincerely addressed. Nigeria remains the #1 capital poverty of the world. He was speaking while delivering the 49th convocational lecture of the University of Nigeria in Nsukka over the weekend. The minister regretted that in spite of the government poverty elevation programs, Nigerians were still bogged down by crippling poverty. Star Radio UK, I come back now to you in the studio.
Listeners, Star Radio UK, Mr. Live, we keep bringing you updates from Nigeria. It's quite an interesting update that he's put across. We're going to be looking into some of them. But let me say good morning to Olero and Joe Taiwo. Morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us. And Abiodun as well. Thank you very much to each and every one of you who are on. I know most of you just come, you are hiding there, you don't want to show your face, but thank you very much. Those of you on the Facebook, YouTube, and all the social media platforms. We have got our own apps as well. You can download it for free, and you have all the media, the means to get into all the other platforms there as well. So get onto your your whether your phone or whichever, and just go there, just your app store and download it. It is for free. Okay, now Yomi, you did talk about the constitutional review. Now we'll be talking about the fact that maybe if the constitution is reviewed and there is that equality for every Nigerian, and things tick along nicely, maybe there might not be a need for people saying that we want to break up or do anything. Now, so with this review, that one of the governors has said that there's no need or there's no point, because one that was done during the time of Jonathan Goodluck, nothing has come out of it. Though the institution, they set up an institution to rewrite that. They did that, but because it came to his table and he didn't do anything to it, subsequent presidents have not done anything, and the subsequent one will be Buhari. Why hasn't Buhari appended his signature to that? And why do they need to now rewrite a new one?
Well, when this government was, campaigning in 2014 to become, the president in 2015, part of what was, painted to so many Nigerians, was the restructuring of the country, and I'm sure so many Nigerians voted them in for that purpose. I mean, they've done the first 4 years, and we saw how, the federal government and the current government refused to review what was done, prior to Jonathan. The Nigerians, whether some of these politicians understand that, whatever they're doing have a big impact on Nigerians. I mean, if there was a review of that constitution, during the Jonathan regime, yes, Jonathan never came back to power. But how come this government never looked into that and just adjusted it? But again, that was never done. Could it be that now that so many agitators and so many situations in the country is why there's now a review of that constitution? That review, from information we had, the two chambers of the National Assembly are poised to pass the bill for the alteration of the 1999 constitution as altered before proceeding on an annual break in July. But the question a lot of Nigerians, those like from the Ninas are saying is, that constitution itself is a military decree, and that means that constitution cannot be valid for the current state of things at the moment. That constitution needs to go into a void, and that is why 17th of March 2021, as at the declaration of December 16, for the first constitutional force majeure, that has put in that constitution into a dispute. And if there's a dispute, what can be the end of it? Because these individuals, they're not individuals, they're, people from the, the southeast, the middle belt, and the southwest that form the alliance of Ninas. They continue to propagate that constitution is void. People like the Afenifere are still having the faith that they want the country to be restructured, but again, that constitution is void. People like Pastor Paul Adefarasi talked about that constitution, and he even emphasized that we will not go into another election based on that constitution. Could it be a review that really matters, or could it be a total overhaul? Or is the country going into a kind of a restructure that would then take us back to where we were in 1960 when we had the regional government? I'm not sure, the present government, is going in that direction, but the question on the table is, what would happen in terms of the review and the passing of maybe alteration of this 1999 constitution? Would that dose the tension in the country? I'm not sure it would dose it, from what I have witnessed for 6 months that we spent on the ground back home.
So do you mean to say that the current government or the president and his team are not ready to do a review, or maybe, put heads together, gather heads together and brainstorm and say, okay, let's come out with a new constitution? Do you think that they are not doing anything of the sort?
Well, I mean, like I said, you got to look at the, the language and the tone of a government for you to know whether this government really, has that kind of, tone to allow a kind of a country that needs to be restructured. And if you are going to restructure the country, that also takes me back to that next headline that might answer the question to what you've just talked about, which is the autonomy that a lot of us have talked about. Most of the, the state local government is the function of any country. As we see it here in London, we have different London boroughs, and those boroughs are working because they have their own autonomy, to decide how the money and how to make sure life is meaningful for those on the ground. But the state unveiled plans to implement financial autonomy for legislature, judiciary. This is now something that, again, is it because of all this agitation? Is it because of the pressure? According to the report, states have now unveiled strategies to implement the Memorandum of Action to ensure financial autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary. The MOA has been signed from June 4 by the Judicial Staff Union of the Nigerian, JUSON, the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASSON, the federal government, and 36 state governors. Under the terms of the MOA, the governors have 45 days to implement the strategies to ensure full financial autonomy for other two arms of government. It seems, yes, I mean, it could be because there's a lot of, crisis in the country. As at 3 weeks ago, nobody was talking about, having a state to have their full autonomy, especially from the local government. So, yes, the government is not really looking into, the tone of the people, but they are also following the trend, and that trend is why they are looking into restructuring. You just had there, they now want to give the state, we have 774 local government, and I can tell you precisely, not one of them knows any of the children in that local government that is not going to school this morning.
Wow. Listeners, it is Star Radio UK. Now, interestingly, whilst you were speaking, something was coming up of mind, and I thought, let me ask of you, what has the BDP leader said in this situation thing that is going on, the security breakdown that is going on, all those stuff? What has the BDP leader said about that? Because putting everything aside, he is, call it the opposition person, one who has got that authority to come and say things or criticize government. What has he said so far?
Well, I mean, the opposition, in Nigeria is kind of an opposition where it is not as it is here, where you have that kind of challenge of the government and putting the government, in their toes. I mean, yes, they do respond to a few things, but not to the expectation of what a lot of us would expect them to do. Yes, they talked about, a lot of things, but again, Nigerians want to see and hear from opposition. But a lot of Nigerians doesn't even believe in those opposition because they believe that those opposition are same as it is called in Nigeria. So that means, whatever their lining is, most of them will still cross over like the cross carpet that they've done in the past.
Well, updates from Nigeria 11:37. We're going to be running up pretty soon. But let's look at this story about Nigeria, the petroleum industry bill, and the fact that Nigeria seems to be losing 15 billion. Is it a year? Is it over a period of a year or what?
Annually, yes.
Annually. Jesus Christ.
That's I mean, again, the question is, I mean, if we're losing 15 billion US dollars, that is a huge sum of money that could have been divided and support, people in the, in each of those local government and make life very good for the people. But until we have, these, leaders that have the, the view of the people on the ground. I mean, I got back to UK and, in no time, I mean, I've been able to be traced by the test and trace. That means, the system is working, but it doesn't work in Nigeria. And that also, takes us back to, I was again reviewing, as Nigeria being the capital poverty of the world. I mean, why could a country that has the 6th largest oil producer in the world is now also the capital poverty of the world? And these are just some of the examples, not putting the policy in place, and that means PIB that has not done well for Nigerians, 15 billion is lost annually.
Well, they are saying that they hope to pass the bill pretty soon, and I promise you, listeners, we're going to follow his suit and we'll let you know what they are doing. Why are they not passing the bill? Is it because some people are making the money? Well, we'll be following it and be asking more questions. Okay, let's go back to Yomi for some of the other updates. Over to you, sir.
And then we're going to be quick on that. That'll just take us straight to Twitter handle this morning. And that brings me straight to Ilana Omo Odua Media on Twitter. What are they saying? How can millions of people be kept by force in a union that, number one, was foisted on them by the so-called amalgamation? They clearly no longer want, is being sustained with bloodshed, all because some, I don't want to use that word because it's not the right word to put on the money show, who think they have monopoly of violence, think Nigeria is a slave camp. That is question mark. Also, they have it here. Nigeria cannot be united, then we should be untied. I'm sure a lot of people will be asking that question as well. So what is trending quickly on Nigeria? Igbo seems to be trending. WhatsApp is trending. Ibadan is trending. Ibadan is where I was staying for a very long time while I was in the southwest of the country. And like I say, we should be back as well. But it seems from what I'm looking at, there's a controversy, which, I think Showore must have posted, but it seems also there's an ongoing protest right as I speak, if I'm right, from Ibadan. Protesters gathering in Ibadan to commence protest. So it seems that is why Ibadan is trending this morning. No show, Ibadan youth, Sean, Yele Showore, Buhari must go protest. And like I can see quite a lot of, brand new vehicle. I'm not sure what this is. Okay, since this is Ibadan, you wonder why those vehicles are moving around in the city when they should be somewhere in Igogon station to protect the lives of our loved ones that have been killed in the past as well. And I can say to you, we have got a full document of everyone that was killed in Igogon, their names, their age, and we have images and videos, and those will be processed by different groups when I've been back now, and they will be sending that to the UK government to look at the atrocity that has been committed right home in the southwest, and also the genocide that is taking place in the southeast as well. Let's take one from the WhatsApp sorry, from what is trending on Twitter. But like I said, London was totally locked down. Wow. I've never seen so many Londoners from the diaspora, from the Southwest, from our mothers, our fathers. People travel as far back as, Manchester. It was a beautiful outing as well in Washington, D.C., in Dallas, in Canada, in Germany, in Italy, across the world. A lot of Yorubas came out and the Biafra to say enough is enough and it's time now for a total disintegration out of Nigeria.
But did you hand any information or petition over to government representatives here in the UK?
Oh yes, I mean, the representatives would have done that because, as you know, this was over the weekend. So, and you have to put that in, especially with the COVID restriction. That means you have to kind of post it or send it by email, to number 10, Downing Street and the representatives. But I can tell you, the outing was massive. Trafalgar Square was shut down. The road was completely closed at some point, right opposite number 10 Downing Street. And those images has gone around the world. And the question then is, what is happening in Nigeria is on the lips of so many people that never knew there's a kind of crime against humanity and ethnic cleansing that is currently taking place in the southeast and the southwest and the middle belt of the country.
Approximately what numbers are we looking at regarding Trafalgar Square?
Well, I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's almost close to 500 people that turn out, and then we had about more than 1 million people that were watching from around the globe.
Okay, that's a good one then. Yummy, let me say thank you very much for this wonderful time with you.
Thank you very much, and I'll be back again same time tomorrow. Bye for now. This is Star Radio UK, your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. Don't touch it down because Archie is still there to take you through the rest of the program. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Well, listeners, that was Mr. Olai Mikoiki.